To begin with, I have spent a great deal of time over the past few years working on my very extensive accumulation of home movies and videos going back 70 years to the 1930s. This has been my hobby all my life, and I found out that the prestigious Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. Was getting interested in the possibility of developing a home movies collection as part of its program of film preservation. This excited me, and I got in touch with the Motion Picture Broadcasting and Recorded Sound Division back in 2001, but without much success. And finally, in January of 2003, I wrote a letter to the Librarian of Congress himself, Dr. James Billington, and a few months later I got a personal response from him. And he referred me, he said he was very much interested in home movies as part of their film preservation project, and he referred me to Dr. Mike Machon, who is the head of the Moving Image division of that part of the library, which has so many extensive collections from all over the place. And I finally was able to communicate with him and spent quite some time, the last couple of years in particular, working with him to see if there were some of my home movies, our Barstow family home movies, that they might be interested in having in there in the Library of Congress collection to preserve for future generations. And it turned out that they really, when I went down to Washington twice to meet with them there at the Library of Congress, and when they found out the kinds of films that we had been taking over all these years here, our family, they really were interested, and working with them, I have finally arrived at a selection of my films and some videos as well, which I'm going to be donating to the Library of Congress itself in Washington. It will be the Robbins Barstow 20th Century Family Home Movie Collection. And it's been really fun to try to put all this together. It's been very painstaking, and I've had to do a great deal of work to straighten it out and get everything in order. But actually, there are some 14 different reels of 16 millimeter original film footage, which I'm donating to the library. It takes, they're interested primarily in the original 16 millimeter film footage. Of course, that's all silent because I didn't have a sound camera. And so I have to be concerned about the narration that goes with each one of these. But I finally have made this selection, and I did, over the years, have all these films transferred from film to video so that I could have each one of them on a separate video tape. And then after that, I also did some, had them transferred to DVDs, because that's the coming thing now, to have DVDs. And so what I have is a collection now of 12 separate Barstow home movie productions, which are being cataloged and will be preserved there in the new Audio-Visual Conservation Center, which is just being constructed over in Culpeper, Virginia this year.
The United States Library of Congress occupies 3 massive buildings adjacent to the Capitol in Washington, D.C. The monumental Jefferson Building with its ornate dome was opened 110 years ago in 1897. 40 years later, across the street, the John Adams Building was opened in 1939 with vast underground storage shelves for books. Then, after another 40 years, in 1981, the 6-story Madison Building was opened, Up until recently, this is where the Division of Motion Pictures, Broadcasting and Recorded Sound was housed. On November 13, 2006, I went to Washington to confer with Dr. Mike Michon, the head of the Moving Image section of the library. I was accompanied by my son Dan, who took these pictures. My mission was to finalize arrangements for the transfer to the library of my large set of 16mm movie films, together with video and DVD copies containing my recorded narration.
Okay. Well, Mike, I got something very special to show you and to share with you and to give you for the library's collection.
I always look forward to seeing
Well,
what you've got for us, Rob.
I have two notebooks here. The first, they're both about the Robbins Barstow collection of 20th century family home movies, Volume 1, background information,
Very good.
and then Volume 2, which contains all of the narration scripts
Fantastic.
for all the programs. They're all in here, the complete scripts for each one
Okay.
of the narration. When I first was down here and we met with, what's your name, Pat Lowley?
Pat Lockney.
Oh, Longy. I told him, you know, they're silent films,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not any good without the narration to go with them. He says, well, do you have the narrations? I said, oh, yeah. And he said, well, just put the narrations with the films. When I got home, I found, well, now I have the narrations, but I had to check and re-edit and rewrite and make sure they were actually what was on the video and the DVD.
Right.
And so that's taken a lot of time to get those narrations, and it tells precisely what's going on and where they fit into each one of the films. And
Because
so,
you had always narrated live.
Yes,
With
yeah.
screenings of the films,
Yeah,
had you
yeah.
not? So that's wonderful. Definitely will. Can you just tell me a little bit as I'm looking through what
Oh,
do you
yeah.
mean by background information?
Yeah, I will.
What are the sorts of things that we have in here?
There's a list of, this is
8 months later, on July 9th, 2007, I returned to Washington, again accompanied by my son Dan. The monumental facade of the historic Jefferson Building across the street from the Capitol, up on Capitol Hill, once more impressed us with its towering columns, outstanding sculptures, and other works of art, providing a dramatic home for such a variety of American treasures, with a giant fountain of the watery King Neptune at its base. By this time, Mike Michon had moved his Moving Image Films section over to the library's massive new Center for Audio-Visual Conservation, some 30 miles out of Washington in Culpeper, Virginia. But Mike had come back on this occasion to usher Dan and me up to the top floor of the Madison Building, where, at the end of a corridor at the northwest corner of the building, are located the prestigious offices of the nation's top librarian, Dr. James H. Billington. Our mission this time included discussing the role of the Center for Home Movies in connection with the library, and to consummate in person with the librarian himself the official donation of my family home movie collection to the library.
well,
Well,
Dr. Billington, I presume.
That is indeed. Here's the man with the films. We're
Yes,
grateful for
well,
it.
it's just so great to meet you and to see you and to know of your interest in home movies, which are an important part of American culture.
They are an important part. They were part of my youthful time, and now that I'm in somewhat more advanced years, to rediscover them again in your collection is a great thrill. So we're all very grateful, and I'm looking forward to seeing them here.
Good.
Bring back happy memories and remind me of we had a happy family, and you obviously have one too. So it's good.
Thank you. Now, Mike, would you be willing to, do you know how to run that kind of a camera?
I'm not sure that.
All right, Dr. Billington, I'd like to have you meet our shop.
Thank you.
Daniel Barstow,
It's a great pleasure. Thank
who,
you.
50 years ago, won for our family this free trip out to Disneyland,
Wow.
which is part of our collection. And now he's working for, well, he's the
First year of Disneyland, right? from the-
yes, just when it opened.
So you were pioneers.
We were.
Good.
Yeah.
So you pioneers in filming it, so thank you for that as well.
All right, thank you,
This
Miss.
is fine. There's a little bit of the ham in all of us and getting some of these movies.
Here's the document.
So,
This is the instrument of gift whereby I am donating to the Library of Congress this whole collection of 20th century family home movies.
well, we're grateful to receive it. We thank you very much, and I'm happy to.
Now, let's see, my name, sir, why don't I sign
You
first?
sign first.
All right. This is a beautiful place to be signing this, up in your sixth floor office in the Madison Building. The date is July 9th, 2007.
I'm happy to have my, you notice I accepting for the United States of America.
Yes.
I don't, that's the, first time I did that, I had a little chills a little up and around the spine here because,
When I was talking to my wife about this, and we read, on behalf of the United States of America, we said, wow.
wow.
That's very impressive, but it says here, I've given all of this here, hereby gives grants over to the United States of America.
I know, well.
Many of Robbins Barstow's original films are now available on the Barstow Travel Adventure Films channel on YouTube. Click here to subscribe to the channel. You will find blockbusters like Disneyland Dream and Tarzan and the Rocky Gorge, early films from the 1930s and 40s, family stories from the 50s and 60s, and travel films from the United States and around the world.